And today's Wisdom Wednesday, we're going to be exploring integrating the rebel into archetypes and into just your life in a way that is supportive and not just completely burning everything to the ground that you're working so hard to build up and find structure in yourself. So one of the archetypes that I've been playing with is kind of merging this rebel that is within me, that I've had in me since I was young, with mothering. And so for any of you that aren't aware, because I really don't put my kids on social media, pictures of them, I might talk about them, but I have 3 children ranging from 10 months to 12 years old, 2 under 3. It's a full wild house here. And what I've noticed is that currently in my relationship to mothering, there have been like a lot of these like undercurrent excuses that are quite valid, and I could use forever and eternity to explain why I'm doing less of what I love, why I'm less creative, why my house is a total shit show. Like I can use mothering to be a fair excuse for any of that. And so recently what I've been playing with is something that I've had a lot of grief on, is my relation to tending the earth. And I've been feeling in the past like, oh, I feel really stuck. I really just want to like get into we have a farm. You can check on my links to look at some of the photos for Orchestra Farm. And especially having 2 children under 3, I've been finding it really challenging to focus in on earth tending when there's these very conflicting needs of me. And so I've just been feeling a bit like in the muck of that experience of being like, oh, well, I guess I just have to like throw my expectations and my desires out the window. And what happens with that is like, that actually doesn't take me very far. It kind of keeps me in this rut. It keeps me in this story. It keeps me in this feeling of, just being like, this is just how it is. And what I find for me is the moment I think this is just how this is, that's a bit of a red alarm for me. Whenever I hear that, that's like what sparks my rebel. It's kind of like that fire that's like, the rebel's like, I don't buy it. I don't buy that you are forever eternity going to be stuck in this like rigmarole, samsara of just not having enough time, not having enough energy, excuses. And the rebel in me starts getting creative. And they start saying, well, if this is just how it is, what needs to change? And how do I like get really creative and spontaneous and shake things up? And so what I've been noticing as I've been playing with that recently, of being like, okay, I want to tend the earth more. Instead of just like thinking about how distant that feels or how challenging it is, I was like, I'm going to start small again. I'm going to like go out. I'm going to start weeding the small little patch with my kids. And it's, when we're creating these new routines and rhythms for what we want more of, it's not always satisfying. And I think in this like fast-paced world of instant gratification, a lot of people don't want to continue these routines when you've tried like integrating something new and it's still not satisfying, and you're still like, I'm still really frustrated at this thing that's supposed to be nurturing me and fueling me, and screw it, I'm just gonna throw it all off and go sit in little complaint soup over here and just stew away. And so that's like when the rebel and kind of meets with this strategy. And so I've been being like, okay, if there's one thing in my life that I want to integrate more routine in, I'm going to focus on doing that in micro steps. So every day I'm going to weed something. It's, and it started with me just like going down to the orchard, like weeding like a few thistles, only getting a little bit in. And then the next day I'm going to like weed something else. And so for me and for any of you earth tenders and really just being human, what I find is that as we are weeding, it's an amazing somatic way of creating space. and claiming space. And so if your beliefs on feeling stuck, and all of those beliefs are actually, I think of them like weeds, right? Like they are inhabiting the space within you to be creative, to see opportunities, to call in what you want, right? And so that process of weeding is actually a physical process of claiming what you want. So it's like, I want this rose to thrive. I'm choosing the rose today. I'm going to choose the rose, and I'm going to, in this choice of the rose, I'm going to omit everything that is interfering with that desire. And so you can play with that idea in your life. Like, what is it you're choosing today? So I'm choosing tending the earth in these micro steps. And what started happening was that as I started getting this rhythm in me, it's actually eroding away this story that I had under the surface of like, I can't tend the earth because my kids are just always needing my attention, da da da. And I actually start leaning and veering and claiming the space, inhabiting the space of the belief that I am able to make the space that I need to do what I love, because I'm getting creative and I'm listening and I'm finding that I'm pivoting myself to create space where it's available. So it starts small like that, right? And then over time, I've noticed that then all of a sudden I'm going to our farm. The kids are napping in the car, veer to my farm, because our farm is not where we live, which has also been a challenge. And so go to the farm, get some time in. And the other day we actually had this beautiful time with me and my husband, and we had like over an hour where all the kids were asleep in the car and we got to work with the farm together. And so the other night, I had this another epiphany of like, okay, it's not about me and my relationship to tending the land. Okay. It's more about how do I create the systems of care and support around me that are needed for me to focus on something that brings me nourishment and joy. And so, yes, I'm using this example in mothering, because if you are a mother or a caregiver of any sort, and that can even be having an animal that needs your attention, there are a lot of opportunities that then get categorized as something that requires you to coordinate care. So it's whether it's coordinating care for all the kids, coordinating care for the meals, coordinating shuttling systems, like all these coordinations so that you can be present doing something you love. And if there's a feeling in yourself, and so for me, realizing like, oh, I feel like my bandwidth to coordinate any more people than the 5 people in my household felt like a bit extreme. What happened in relation to our farm was we decided to just stop coordinating all of this community support that we were having with a few different core members. And so this year, what happened is like, yes, it's the year I'm like, I can't coordinate more people. So I ended up stripping away that support network. So here I am, at our farm and feeling the lack of that support network around me. And so at the beginning, so for anyone popping on, we're talking about excuses. We're talking about bringing the rebel into your archetypes you might be holding, and how the rebel is here to kind of shift up and shake up parts of ourselves that are feeling stagnant in beliefs that are taking up space and helping us stick in the muck. So what happened is that anytime that you're pivoting ways that you have care and support around you, this can happen from big moves that you're in. It can happen from changing your professions. It can happen from anything that's really taking away systems that you've created scaffolding so that you can do what you love or be of service. So when those systems shift, when those friend networks shift, when you have more kids and less time, and when that shifts, what needs to... Oh, you can't hear me. Oh no. I wonder why that is. Let's see. Oh dear. Anyways, let's keep talking and we'll see if anyone else can hear me. So what ended up happening for me in this relation was that... Okay. You can listen to it again. So what ended up happening was I realized that because we shifted up the layers of how we were organizing our farm this new season, I would just get there and just be overwhelmed. I'd be like, this place. And then yesterday, you know, we were putting in like 70 squash plants, and we actually are going to be having a profit part of our farming, which we haven't really done. We've done. Okay, let's see if this is going. I have to redo all this. So we're putting all these, the kids are crying, it's pouring rain on us, we're all soaked, and I'm just like, this is where I have to get creative. This is where the rebel in me is going to either, you know, isn't going to say, well, this is just how it is. I'm going to have to go home, I'm going to have to let my husband keep working for hours without me when I really want to do this project because I love it. Oh, yay. Wonderful. I hope everyone else can hear the rest of it. Anyways, so what ended up happening was that I invited that rebel in because for me, the rebel is when the rebel archetype is out of place, it can just destroy things it just destroy it all, right? The rebel has the ability to like be this tornado of change in our lives. But when the rebel is being asked and implemented in a way that is, that gives it something to do, that's where the rebel is like, so my rebel's task for me right now, as I've been reallocating that archetype of myself, the rebel's task I'm giving it is, please get creative with finding opportunities to change how I'm moving through where I feel stuck. So the parts of me that feel stuck in beliefs, the parts of me that feel stuck in the excuses and like the valid excuses, I'm asking my rebel to go into those excuses and get creative and show me that, like, that plan C, that like that thing, that way, that thought pattern that I need to like actually navigate myself out of these swampy areas where we've just become really dormant and stagnant in these beliefs that have been inhabiting us. And so I invited my rebel in there with our farm last night in the pouring rain when the kids were like crying and wet and we really had a lot more to do. And I just like called out to my friend, Robin. I love you, Robin. I was like, Robin, I need to like drop my kids off. Can I drop my kids all off at your place? And they have no food. Like I can, and she was just like, I've got food. We'll take care of them. And so I drove her there and like drove all the kids there, all 3 of them. And they had this fabulous night. And me and my husband got to plant 70 squashes and connect together and just ground in this other narrative. But it was only because I invited in this creativity that was needed to like shift how I was feeling being supported, because I had taken away all of the structures, specifically in farming, from this year. So I feel like that's a roundabout way, but I wanted to share that. And yeah, if anyone's popping them now, do pop back and re-listen, hopefully, to the rest of it, where we get into how weeding can be a way of clarifying the space and desires that you have in your life. So I'll just end it off with, if you are feeling like you're a little bit lost, try weeding something. Try finding something that is overgrowing that you care about in your surroundings. Yeah, so finding something that, you know, in your surroundings that you care about that's being overgrown by something, or even like having like a weed starting to approach in it, and weed that. And as you're weeding that, you're showing your body that you have the ability to focus on something and to care for it. And it could be a simple like 1 minute process, but slowly building that sense of a capacity to continue to show up. So I'll leave you all with that. And I'll also, for anyone that hears this today, we have our community council, which is a monthly clairvoyant reading session. It's a group up to 8. I think we've got a few spots left, and we have space for an angel session if you want to claim the angel spot. And that's on Zoom, and it is from 1:30 to 2:30 Pacific Standard Time. So do check my links in my bios if you want to sign up and register and join us. Otherwise, you can see us next month. All right. So yeah, if anyone wants that angel spot, do reach out. Aloha.